So we are looking at the interface guideline general design. So we are trying to say that in this section we'll be looking at three things. We'll look at the general interaction. We'll look at the guidelines that guides information display. Then we'll also look at the data entry. Now every application has three things to always look at. Their general designs and how information is being displayed on the screen, and also match. Every application has one or multiple ways of gathering data the um, from the users. So that has to deal with what data entry. All right, so we are going to look at the general interaction, and we are saying that one of the key things that we need to focus or have in mind is to be consistent. So you realize that one of the guidelines that we learned earlier under the Schneiderman's principles, you realize that consistency thing is there. So so when it comes to consistency, we are trying to say that if you have a particular design for interface A, let it flow through to interface 1000 or the number of interfaces that your system is harboring. So all we are trying to say is this: if you're using a particular color, let the color flow through all the interfaces. If you are using a font size of a particular size, let it flow from one. Now you would realize that the font size that you use for a particular heading can be different from the font size of little information that you put across. Are we okay? So be mindful of the headlines color. Even if the headline is using a particular color, let every heading in every interface bear similar color. So we are trying to say that everything you do, let there be some form of consistency from one interface. So if you put in a button and the button there is having probably one color, or maybe it is white, let it flow from one interface to the other. That is where the consistency comes in. Okay, yeah. Then one second thing is offering significant feedback. To offer a significant feedback, it is very important. Now, as our course is trying to make us understand or focus on is how the human being or the user can interact with your system's interface. So it is very important to bring out feedback. You design a system, it takes an information of its users. All we are trying to say is this: the moment the user is done providing every information that he or she has to provide, and the person presses on send or submit, then there should be that kind of a pop-up or a dialogue that should tell the user that indeed the send or the save you clicked on, your details have been saved successfully. So there should be that kind of feedback. So your design should be okay. Your algorithm or your code should contain that particular section where the moment the person sends an information, there should be a feedback to say that yes, indeed the system has saved your information. So that is offering significant feedback. If it is deletion, there should be that form of feedback that the system or whatever button you have pressed, the feedback should come back to the user and tell the user that it has been successful or it didn't go through, because I'm sure no one will be happy to find a system that doesn't say anything whether you've saved or you've not saved. So you should have that one too in mind. Then also ask for authentication of any non-trivial critical action. Ask for authentication of any non-trivial critical action. So sometimes in the system development, there are some information that the moment you provide, you can't go back again. So what you are saying is that if you are the developer and you are developing the system and you get to that portion where you know that whatever information the user is given, the moment he or she clicks on a particular button and there won't be any form of recovery, give the user that chance. Are you sure? So even though the user clicks on maybe save or delete, then before the system deletes, there should be another dialogue that will ask the user, are you sure you really want to delete this from your system? If this action is being taken, you can't retrieve, so the user can be aware. So when the user still goes ahead and says yes, then the action can be taken. So you asking again, just like our Momo app, before you send, so you even punch your what's the name, your pin code. After the pin code, it will ask you, are you sure you want to continue? So you can see that MTN or the MTN app is ensuring that you are sure. So double checking or authenticating that truly you want to complete this particular mission. So it's also a good thing to have in mind anytime you are developing a system. And also authorize easy reversal of most actions. Authorize easy reversal of most actions. So you can see that it's not saying that authorize easy reversal of all actions. No, there should be an easy reversal of most actions. So when you look at some actions and you think there can be some form of reversal, try and help it out. Make the system interactive in a way that the user can make a mistake but later reverse. So last week, if you remember, we saw an example where I was on the Google the Gmail and I deleted a particular information, and later you could see the undo there. I click on the undo and my mail came back to my inbox again. So that is a way of trying to reverse some of the actions that users do make. Now lessen the amount of information that must be remembered in between actions. Yeah, so the kind of information you put on your application shouldn't be many. Try and lessen it, and it is a good thing when you do that, because when the words are few, it is being remembered quickly as compared to you having a chunk of information. Then also seek competence in dialogue, motion, and thought. So this also has to deal with the way your dialogue box pops up. There should be that kind of consistency in that one too. Excuse mistakes can also be looked at, how you can reverse your actions. Sometimes there are some inputs. We'll get to the input section, and let me just explain here. Sometimes if you are supposed to provide a name of a person, and we know that names of people do not contain numbers, you can excuse those mistakes such that as the person is typing from the keyboard and the person types a number, the number shouldn't appear or form a part of the name the person is trying to put in that particular box. So you can excuse people's mistakes. So try and catch all these errors and let the user type freely. Also, classify activities by function and establish geography accordingly. Classify activities by function and establish screen geography accordingly. Now, we've been using apps for a very long time, and you could see that if an app has a login interface, the interface is called a login interface. If it is a signing up interface, you see the sign up interface. If it is maybe adding a user, adding another user, you see that it's another. So every function has a separate screen of its own. So we are saying that classify activities based on what their function. Now, let me pull out this PDF here. Now, as you can see, we have home. Now, in the home section, we can see there are tools there. So this is another way of trying to classify functions, that has similar activity. When it comes to the cover section, the same thing happens in that particular section. So it's always advisable to group your functions. Yes, it's very important to always group like terms, so that it makes things easier for your user or users to use them. Now, deliver help services that are context sensitive. One important thing is that your app should have the help section where you can search if there is any issue. You can search. So with this app that I'm using, for instance, you can see the search button here, which is there for help. If I want to find out about something, I can search. Then there is this help section here too. So there's help section here, basically has a documentation where if you want to do anything, you can go there, read. As a way, it will help your users to answer or find out certain actions done without a need of, maybe, let's say, calling the developer. I don't know where the user is going to get you from, but it's always advisable that any application you build, put in that help session, so that if a user wants clarification of anything, the user can just go to the help session and get things done by him or herself. Now, use simple action verbs or short verbs or phrases to name commands. Yes, so if you are dealing with commands, make sure they are as short as possible. I think the maximum should be about 3, but even the 3 words, it shouldn't even get to the 3. Try as much as possible to get 1 or 2. It's always important to ensure that your actions, your buttons, the names shouldn't be more than 3. Ideally, it shouldn't be more than 3. If you have 2, it is fine. Now, when you look on our screen here, you can see an action like hand. A button here, select, snapshot, clipboard, MacBook. Now, the ones that have more than one name, you can see actual size, fit page, fit weight, fit visible. So when you look here, you can see that no action even has more than 3 words. Yes, so every command, every button, every action should contain at least, it's advisable to have about 2. Try and make sure that it is as less than 4. It shouldn't go beyond 3. Okay, yeah. Then when it comes to information display, so all that we've discussed here is just talking about a generalization of what to incur in an application. Then we are now going to look at information display, how you put information on your system. Don't just put everything onto an interface. If you think there's a need for extra words, you can split to the next interface, okay, so that you don't have a lot of information on one screen. So information provided by HCI should not be incomplete or unclear, or else the application will not meet requirements of the user. Yeah, so information display. Ensure that the information you are putting on the system is clear. There shouldn't be any form of ambiguity. Ambiguity means having double meaning to a particular sentence. Okay, and I'm sure you guys have done is it communication skills. You guys did English in your first year. When you look at a particular statement and the statement has two meanings to the same statement, we can call it ambiguity when it is not clear. So when it comes to applications, when you develop applications, you should ensure that there are no ambiguity, or it is not clear for the user to understand whatever you are saying. There should just be one meaning. If you can follow this back, let's look at algorithms. One of the qualities of an algorithm is that an algorithm does not need to be ambiguous. It's the same way. It shouldn't have two or more meanings. Your algorithm should be simple and clear. It's the same thing that is happening here. So when you are putting an information online, you should ensure that the information you put online should be clear. It shouldn't have two sides. Else others will be taking the other side, so one side, and others will be taking another side. When it happens like that, information that is going to be provided will always be different. Example, when you are filling a form, you see sex. So instead of you using the word gender, for us to know that gender, you want to know the kind of sex organ that we are having, which defines us to be either male or female. So instead of using gender, then your form that we are supposed to fill is having sex. Sex, somebody can also write 3 days, 4 days. Meanwhile, that is not the information you are looking for. So you know that the kind of information you are looking for is the type of gender that you want the person to put in the system. So instead of going for gender, which is not ambiguous, because the moment you say gender, you know that gender is either male or female, or maybe LGBTQ+. Then you go for sex. Some people those who are intelligent will know that, for the sex, the system is expecting me to enter whether I'm a male or a female. Somebody too will see sex and will enter 3 days, or 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 7 times a day, in which we all know that particular information is not what we are looking for. So that is some form of ambiguity that we can clear from our system. All right, so point 1, we are saying that exhibit only that information that is applicable to the present context. Yes, so we are trying to say that the information you are going to provide, if the person is on a login interface, just provide the login interface information on that particular system. Then if there's a little link of the login system to the sign up, you just state it. But try as much as possible, if the person is on an interface where the person is going to save, ensure that every information that you want the user to read and understand should only pertain to how the person can save that particular information. If the person is to do something else, whatever that interface portrays, let the corresponding information be there. Don't go and talk about login in a save interface. Don't go and talk about one thing in another interface. So in displaying an information, we are saying that exhibit only that information that is applicable to the present context. 2. Don't burden the user with data. Use a presentation layout that allows rapid integration of information. Don't burden the user with so much data. Just use a presentation layout that allows rapid integration of information. So you try to group your information nicely. I guess you guys have done Visual Basic. VB. Any answer?
No, please.
Hey, you people,
We've not done VB yet.
you've not done VB. Are you sure? And
Yes, sir.
the IT guys have already done VB, and you guys have not done. All right. All right. So it's very good to group your it's very good to group some of your forms, so that your data doesn't look so much on that particular interface. Now use standard labels, standard abbreviations, and probable colors. Yeah, so these I've already talked about. So here it helps you, this whatever point helps you to be consistent in your the size of your font type. Okay, it should be consistent. So if you are using one particular font type for topics or headings, you should follow that. If it is subsections, you should use the same, the same size and type for the same, various interfaces. Now, permit the user to maintain visual context. Permit the user to maintain visual context. Make sure that the information on your screen is not too small. Okay, try and make it reasonably visible for users to see, because we have different types of human beings. There are some people who have to put their phones as far back before they can see. Others too, they should look really close before they can see. Others too are normal. So you look for the size that when you put on your system, it won't make reading difficult. So you maintain a visual context. Now generate meaningful error messages. Generate meaningful error messages. So anytime your system probes an error, the user should be able to read and understand. It should be meaningful so that the user will know what is happening to the system. Now, uppercase and lowercase. Use upper and lowercase, indentation and text grouping to aid in understanding. And we know what uppercase, we know what an uppercase letter is, an upper or the lowercase, and also indentation. Indentation is more like you are bulleting, trying to put your lettering in a way like this. For instance, I can see that this place or this area has one, is in one form. Looking at the margin, I'm trying to explain the indentation. Now the points come in and they are indented. So when you are reading from an interface, it becomes simple because there are some information that will be at the very start of the margin. Others too will go a bit further so that you can find the differences or trying to capture anything with your eyes so easily. And it's also good to do what we call the grouping to help users understand information really fast. Now also consider the available geography of the display screen and use it efficiently. Consider the available geography of the display screen and use it efficiently. Yeah, so anytime you are designing a system, you should consider the area in which you are dealing with. You should always look at the area, because people are using different types of machines, different types of when it comes to desktop computers, even the people have different types. Even with our phones, to different people have what different or various types of phones. So when you are designing your system, be sure of the margins such that when your system gets to one particular phone, we won't see some of the information getting missing here and there. Now, with this particular point, you mostly find it when you're developing an Android application. If care is not taken, you design the application and to look good in one or on one phone, another phone it will look messed up. So you should test the system in a way that all the information you provide on the screen do not escape from the screen whatsoever. Then the last and on the list, we are looking at data entry. Now, when you are gathering information from users using your application, there are certain things you need to put in mind. When you are designing an application, reduce the number of input actions required of the user. I think this one last week I tend to explain that reduce the number of input actions required of the user. This is a very important aspect when it comes to data collection. So here we are talking about data entry. When you are taking data from a user, the information the user is going to provide, make sure that try and find, you guys are developers, so you should think very, very deep. If there is a particular portion of the app that the user can do clicking using the mouse instead of using the keyboard to enter the information, please try as much as possible to make the user do the clicking instead of typing the information. Now, when we use the mouse tends to be more convenient to use as compared to the keyboard. So the last time I was talking about making the user to input the person, so his or her age. So we are trying to say that now, if your system is going to capture somebody's age, the user can type the age. So I put their age. It's so easy. The person can I provide the entry point or the text box. The person could have just punched the age. But we are saying that instead of allow the user to punch in the age, why don't you create a system that will allow the user to rather click on something so that later the age can be obtained. So I was giving an example that you would realize that when it comes to age session, most systems do not allow us to put in an age, but rather they will give us the ability to pick a date. So they will put in a date time picker. So that date time picker is what we are going to select in order to be able for their system to get our date of birth, then do the calculation based on our year of birth minus, so it will be the current year minus the year of birth, then the age will be what? Calculated. We are saying this because when somebody is typing the age, somebody may go and type a letter, and we know that age only deals with what? Numbers. Also, you may be intelligent to make your system in a way that it will not accept the person can punch the age, ensuring that the system do not accept letters. But the user can still go ahead and make another mistake, which can be typing 3 digits like 5, 6, 7. And we all know that there is no one on this earth who can grow as far as 5, 6, 7. So in a way, we are doing this to reduce the number of errors that a user can make, or users can make. Others may be careful; they'll just punch their their age rightfully. Others too may not be careful. But in all ways, as the system developer, we are trying as much as possible to reduce the error, irrespective of who the person is. So we can just put in a daytime picker. So as a developer, every system is different. I don't know the kind of system you're going to develop. But if you are developing an app, have it in mind that if you want the user to punch through the keyboard, ask yourself, is there a possible way? The question is, ask yourself, is there a possible way that the user can still put in that information, but this time using the mouse to do just a clicking to enter whatever information you want him or her to provide. So an example is what I've given to you, just like the age. But entries like name. For name, you can't do anything about name. Exactly. So for that one, you just have to leave it openly so that the user can type the name. So we are trying to, but our point is reduce the number of input actions required of the user. So the ball is in your hands. Try as much as possible to ensure that the user do more of clicking than trying to put in the data. Now, even one more example, you could see that when you are being asked of your nationality, you won't be given the chance to put in Ghanaian, because you may misspell Ghanaian, you may write something, add some characters, but rather there is what we call a combination box, a drop down box that all the countries have been fused into that particular control. So all you're supposed to do is just click and search for your nationality, then you select it. So you can see that developers are doing very well to ensure that users don't normally or mostly type from the keyboard, but rather use the mouse to ensure that the same work is being accomplished. Now, the reason why we are saying this is because it has been discovered that most people, even IT guys and non-IT guys, they are really conversant with the usage of the mouse. The mouse is really easy to use. So when you channel your inputs data in a way that the mouse can get the work done, please try and follow that particular path. Now, you should also uphold steadiness between information display and data input. You should uphold steadiness between information display and input data. Let me do this. I want to show you what this is trying to mean. If I can come back. Okay. Please, what can you see on my screen?
Nothing.
You are seeing nothing, right? Okay.
Yes, sure.
All right. What about now?
You can see a slide.
You can see what? You can see the slide.
Right. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, good. I think what I wanted to show you, you can use this particular space here. Now, when we look at the commands here, we are trying to say that uphold steadiness between information display and the input and the data input. Now, with this particular section here, we can see that there is an icon here and then the text. So here the icon is standing there as a symbol to edit what text. So we are trying to say that there should be a steady, there should be some of steadiness between the information display and the data input. So the moment I see one, I see the data display, the data input beside it should not be far. Like there should be this form of closeness. So at the moment I see that, okay, I can see name. So next to it is what we call a text box. So the text box is telling me that, okay, so when I look at this particular lane, I know that the name here means that the text box is supposed to achieve or probably accept names. If it is an age, that kind of, the control and the name of the control, there should be some form of what steadiness between them. Don't position your icons or your controls in a way that it will look in between. I don't know how to put it, but I guess you guys are getting what I'm trying to say. The label should be close to the control. So if it is a daytime picker, if I want somebody to insert his or a date of birth, the label called date should be close to the control, just like the label here called typewriter is close to a particular icon that comes with it. The same thing happens here. So anytime I come here, I can see the icon hand, and the hand here is what describing what I can do with this particular application. So always let your labels should form some form of steadiness between the information or which is the label and the data input that you need to put there. Now let the user customize the input. There are some applications that the user can customize the interface. You can rearrange things. Yeah. So if you have an app that can bring some form of customization, you can also do that. Now interaction should be flexible. But also tuned to the user's favored mode of input. Yeah. So this also still talks about the customization thing. You guys have used some applications. Sometimes when you're using some of the compilers, you can go to the dark mode or the normal mode whatsoever. Yeah. So this is some form of flexibility that the user can use whilst using that particular application. So if your application can give us that kind of flexibility to change things to suit us, then there's a thumb up for you. Now, disable commands that are unsuitable in the context of current actions. Disable commands that are unsuitable in the context of current actions. For instance, when you are installing an app, you could realize that when you get to a session where you're supposed to accept the reading, the terms and conditions, you will see that there's a box there that they will ask you to check. Now, before you go to the next, you will see that the next button has been grayed out, or it doesn't look clickable, unless you go and check that indeed you've read all the terms and conditions, which you and I we don't do. But definitely you're supposed to go and check, because if you don't check that particular terms and condition, our next icon will not give us the ability to click on for us to go to the next. So in some part of your application where the command does not need an immediate action, but depends on another action before it is being activated, you should look at those things and act on that as well. So that's an example that I've showed you. Now allow the user to control the interactive flow. Allow the user to control the interactive. That is also form of the some form of flexibility. Offer help to assist with all input actions. Offer help to assist with all input actions. Yeah. An example, for instance, we can look at numbers. If you've done a lot of registrations, you realize that when we are being asked to enter our numbers, you realize that some you see +233, then they will leave the remaining section for us to fill. Sometimes we get confused whether to start with 0 or not to start with 0. So if you are for you as a developer, if you want your users to begin with 0, what you're supposed to do is to provide a help or put an information on top of that particular control and say that do not start with 0. Start with 0. Whether you start with 0 or not, it is fine. So you put that particular information there, so the user won't make a mistake. Okay, so you just put the help section there that the user should not do ABCD, so that the user can just go ahead and know what to do at that particular point in time. So it's a way of assisting the user with the input action. So there are some data when you want to gather. If you feel that there is a form of ambiguity, just put a help section there and guide the user. So it's a way of guiding the user to do the right thing. So we are learning this in a way that when the users submit their data, we will always get correct data and not wrong data. It says remove Mickey Mouse input. Remove Mickey Mouse input. Yeah, so there are some inputs that we call as Mickey Mouse. For instance, you are provided a name, and names we don't use the @ symbol. Try and make your control to exempt those small or the petty mistakes that the user cannot make. So that's an example of the Mickey Mouse input. All right, so I'll be finishing soon. I want us to look at one more thing.
So please can you explain the Mickey Mouse movement again?
All right. Mickey Mouse input. Good. Let me use this example. Now, assuming you want to allow someone to enter a person's age, okay? Now, a person's age is only in whole numbers, right? But have you ever asked someone that what is your age, and the person will tell you I'm 15.5 years old. Now, the 0.5 is not necessary. The 0.5 is not necessary. So the Mickey Mouse input, you are trying to help the user to exempt him or herself from putting things that are not necessary. So your control is in a way that it has locked the system in a way that when you provide a person's age, there won't be a decimal point. So that's an example of a Mickey Mouse what? Input. An example is the name I gave. When typing a name, there are certain characters that need not to be a part of the name, except hyphen, because there are some people they have their names with a hyphen. So the hyphen is acceptable, but other characters. So you should have your system in a way that it can, even though the user will make a mistake, others will make a mistake by typing maybe the colon sign, but your control will not allow that colon to what appear. So it's a way of what removing what Mickey Mouse what input. Do you understand? The one who has the question, are you understanding that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So things that you think they are possible, because when somebody is typing, the person can make those mistakes. You try to avoid them before it won't even appear at all. So it's a way of what? So we call it what? Trying to what? Take away what? Mickey Mouse what? Inputs. All right. I want to share one more stuff, then we can call it a day. All right. Tell me what you can see here.
Nothing. We can't see anything.
Can't see a thing. All right. Then let me come back.
They're not presenting the screens here.
Oh, okay. I just realized it. Sorry. Okay, so we have this share. What about now? Oh, sorry. I didn't want to share. This is not what I wanted to share. Let me just cancel it. Yeah. What about this? What can you see now?
Still can't see a thing. Nothing.
Hey, that's strange. Can't share your screen, so when it was scared. Okay, when sharing screen. Okay, I think there's an error happening. What about now?
Yes.
Can
I
see.
can see it.
What can you see?
Common UI design. Common UI design.
Alright, so this is what we want to look at. Then there are about 5 to 6 of them. We look at them so that you just get a gist of what I'm trying to cut across here. So we are looking at 10 common UI design mistakes. Maybe we look at the first 6, then I'll share the entire 10 for you guys so that later you can read and know. Alright, so just to give you a clear picture, so there are 10 common UI design mistakes. So there are things that some designers tend to do that is not good. So we are going to learn and have them in mind so that we don't practice those things as well. All right, so let me reduce this. Now we are also saying that looking at, we have the right side and the left side. So the left side we have the no, and the right side we have a yes. Okay, now when you look at the two interfaces, now when you look at the topic here, let me zoom. Good. When you look at the topic here, it's kind of blurred to read. Okay, it's kind of blurred as compared to the one on our right side. And the ones here, the subsection here is really tiny for anyone to read. Like I said, anytime you are developing anything, the information you put on should be visible. Okay, it should contain a steady visibility. Okay, yeah, so that it will help users to see things clearer. They don't need to strain their eyes in order to see whatever you wanted them to see. Then when you look here, the size of the theme here is the same size as the subsection here. It's not advisable. Always try and make headings have bigger should I say bigger size, or a size which is different from a subsection. Okay, there are some apps the headings can even be smaller, but the subsection may be bigger. But in all things, try as much as possible to ensure that when our eyes are being cast on, we can see the difference between a theme and a subword section. Let's calm down. Well, we can also look at little distinction between primary and secondary buttons. Little distinction between. So it's also advisable to make a distinction between a primary button and a secondary button. What do we even mean? What do we even mean by primary buttons and secondary buttons? Now, when you look at the interface here, when you look closely, you see email address and password. Now, email address and password. Then you can see login as a button, sign up as a button, forgot password. Now, when you look at the interface, what is this interface trying to portray here? Among these three buttons, what action is best describing the interface here? Please do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, the interface here requires an email address and a password. Then we have a button called login, a button called sign up, and a button called forgot password. What
So
the login?
the second one. The
Not
login.
no, the second one. It's not the second one. It's login, because when you want to log in, you need an email address and a password. Now, because your interface requires that the login should be done. Now, the interface we all agree is a login interface. So here, the primary button becomes the login button. So you can see we have three buttons here, but the primary button is called what? The login button. Please do we get it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in so doing, we are saying that since the login button is the primary button, try and make it different from the others. So when you look at the right hand side, you can see that the login button is standing out blue, and the sign up has a different color, whilst the forgot password is also have a different design. It helps, when the user casts his eyes on the left hand side, the user has to take time and know the login, the sign up, because they are all having the same form. Now when you come to the right side, it is easier. The moment the user knows that after entering the email and password, the one that is standing out is the login me, which becomes the primary button. Then the rest become the secondary button, because on that particular page, the page is expecting us to log in. So we are trying to say that every interface, look at the corresponding button and make sure that particular button stands out for easy identification. For the user to know that, okay, the kind of or the current page I am on, I'm supposed to sign up. It makes things easier for the user to use. Then let's look at lack of text hierarchy. Lack of text hierarchy. Good. Lack of text hierarchy. Now, what we are trying to say is about the sizes of text that you put on your system. They shouldn't all have the same size. From here, there, there, they are all following the same size. But it's always advisable to have a change in the various sizes for all the information you put on your system. So there should be a hierarchy on your system when it comes to text. They also have bad iconography. The icons we put on the system. Remember we talked about some form of consistency. Now, these are what we call material icons. You can see them on Android applications. Sometimes you may see them on web applications too. Now we are trying to say that let the icon be consistent. Look at the clock here. When it gets to the home button, look at how the home button is. The home button is not that deep as compared to the message sent and that of the clock. But when you look at the right hand side, the clock, the home button, and the message have some sort of standard design that they are all using. So this is a bad thing that you need not to practice, but practice something like this. Then also alignment. Alignment is also a very key thing that you should always look at. So don't align related items to different size. Always try to align related elements to the same side because it connects them visually. Yeah. So the left hand side is not looking good, but the right hand side looks well formatted. So when you format or you align, so left align, right align, so make sure you align your work in a nice way, okay, so that you look connected. Now when you look at the left hand side, it doesn't look, the words there doesn't look connected, looking at the theme and the subsection here. But when you put your lettering or your alignment like this, you could realize that the heading looks like, oh, okay, the subsection here is a bit connected. Then let's look at contrast. Yes, contrast. When you look at this interface, these two interfaces, now when you look closely, it is even difficult for you to notice that there is an image here and a small icon in the center of this particular. So be careful of how you put colors or put one color on another. Yeah, put colors that are clear when they fall on each other. Look at, for white is a very good background color. For instance, you can see this violet icon here that is on the white. It is so clear or clearer than what we can see here. So be mindful of how you put one color on another. We call that the contrast. Now you can see this section here. It's very difficult, or you need to open your eyes clearly to notice whatever information or icon that has been placed here. You look at the right hand side, things are really looking good and very simple. You don't need to open your eyes or strain your eyes to see whatever is there. Then one thing I want to talk about is using low quality images. Why is this one not showing? Some of my information is not showing. Wow. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'll recheck the PDF again.
The slides, please.
Yeah, I'll give you the slide. I don't know why the section here is not showing. Yeah, but what are you saying?
Yeah, I was just asking for the slides.
Oh, don't worry. When I'm done with the lecture, I'll just send it to your class rep. Okay. Yeah. Important to avoid.
Okay, don't worry.
Yeah, it's also important to avoid low quality images when you are designing a system and there need to be an image to depict something, please try and go for a very high definition pictures. Your picture shouldn't look you know, those box that you will be seeing like blur. It shouldn't be that blur. You should have a picture that is clear and clean for us to, easily see whatever we want to see. All right, so these are some of the common things that we need to avoid whilst developing a system. I'll end here. If you have any question, you can ask. If not, you can call it a day.
Thank you, sir.
So you are cool, right? Everything is loud and clear.
Sir,
Yes. Oh, okay.
please, which app do you recommend for UI designing?
Oh, there are lots of them. So any of them is good. Okay. All you have to do is to know the environment and use whatever UI design you want to use. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.